Hello and welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to dive deep into a story that has sparked widespread debate in the UK and beyond. It's about King Charles, a controversial portrait initiative, accusations of a shameful waste of taxpayer money, and deeper revelations about the royal family's finances. We'll break down the facts, the controversy, and the public's reaction to help you form your own opinion. But before we begin, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on all the latest royal news and controversies. Your support helps us reach more people and keeps the conversation going. In January 2024, the UK government introduced an official portrait of King Charles III intended to commemorate his reign and provide public institutions with an updated image of the monarch. The initiative was launched with much fanfare and a sense of goodwill. Special funds were set aside by the Cabinet Office to ensure that public bodies could receive a free-framed portrait of King Charles to replace the image of the late Queen Elizabeth II that had been displayed in numerous public spaces across the UK, from hospitals to schools and government offices. At first glance, this might seem like a thoughtful and respectful gesture to honor the new monarch, but the response from the public and institutions across the UK has been far from positive. According to The Sun, the figures speak volumes. Only 40 out of 1,454 eligible organizations, less than 3%, actually applied for a free portrait of King Charles. Among these were hospitals, local authorities, and government departments in England. Even more shockingly, in Wales, just 15.6% of public institutions expressed interest in receiving the new royal portrait. But the disappointment doesn't end there. Universities, which might have been expected to show interest in such a historic gesture, also turned their backs on the scheme. Out of 475 universities in the UK, only 35, around 7.4%, requested a portrait of the king. The lack of enthusiasm for the scheme was made all the more glaring by the fact that it was essentially free, with no cost to the public bodies involved. Yet the response was lukewarm, to say the least. The statistics were a blow to both the royal family and the UK government, especially considering the public funds allocated to this initiative. One would expect that a new portrait of the king would be received with enthusiasm, given the royal family's prominent place in British history. But instead, the public's disinterest raised serious questions about the monarchy's relationship with the British public in 2024. When we look at the financial side of this scheme, things start to get even more controversial. The government allocated £2.7 million of taxpayer money to fund the production and distribution of these royal portraits. In total, 20,500 framed portraits were shipped to public bodies across the UK. That works out to around £132 per picture. Now, for many, especially those who are concerned with the state of public services in the UK, this seemed like an extravagant expenditure. The country is facing a series of economic challenges, including a cost of living crisis, soaring energy bills, and underfunded public services like the NHS, schools, and hospitals. With all these pressing issues, many people felt it was deeply insensitive to spend such large sums of public money on royal portraits, especially when public services were struggling to meet the demands of a population facing hardship. Graham Smith, the chief executive of Republic, an anti-monarchy campaign group, didn't hold back in his criticism of the portrait scheme. He called the entire initiative a shameful waste of money, emphasizing that public funds would be better spent on services that directly benefit the public, rather than on symbolic gestures for the monarchy. At a time when hospitals are stretched thin, schools are underfunded, and the NHS is facing staffing shortages, the decision to allocate £2.7 million for royal portraits seemed completely out of touch. Smith pointed out the stark contrast between the financial struggles of public services and the lavish spending on royal symbolism. His comments resonated with many who felt that the monarchy was increasingly disconnected from the realities of everyday life in the UK. The lack of interest in the portrait scheme wasn't limited to just public bodies. In fact, the backlash was so severe that it began to attract attention from the wider public and the media. The Sun and other publications reported extensively on the low uptake of the portraits, fueling the narrative that the monarchy was out of touch, and more concerned with appearances than with addressing the pressing issues facing the nation. At the heart of the backlash was a growing frustration with the monarchy's continued reliance on taxpayer money to fund its activities, particularly in times of economic uncertainty. Critics argued that the royal family, worth billions of pounds, should not be asking the public to fund such projects, especially when there were more urgent needs within the country. Moreover, the fact that so few public bodies opted for the portraits suggested that the public, particularly within the institutions directly affected by the offer, did not see this initiative as a priority. Many questioned whether the portrait scheme was an outdated tradition that had no place in a modern, cash-strapped society. Some have even gone as far as to question whether the monarchy should still exist in its current form, especially when it appears to be out of step with the needs of the people it represents. The ongoing controversy surrounding the portrait scheme has only served to fuel these debates. The portrait scheme is just one part of a larger ongoing conversation about the monarchy's finances. Recently, a documentary titled "The King, the Prince, and Their Secret Millions" exposed the lucrative private estates of King Charles and Prince William, shedding light on how the royal family profits from land owned by the Royal Duchy of Cornwall and the Duchy of Lancaster. The royal duchies, which are private estates owned by the monarch and heir to the throne, have been generating substantial income by leasing land to various public services. According to the Sunday Times, the royal family charges public bodies like the NHS, Army, Navy, schools, and even prisons for the use of land, rivers, and seashores that are part of their estates. The financial arrangement has raised serious ethical questions. Critics argue that it's inappropriate for the monarchy to be profiting from public services already funded by taxpayers. Given the state of public finances, with institutions like the NHS in crisis, many feel that the monarchy should not be charging for access to land that ultimately benefits the public. Should the monarchy be reformed or abolished? As the debate over the portrait scheme continues to unfold, it raises broader questions about the role of the monarchy in modern Britain. The ongoing controversies surrounding royal finances and public spending have sparked a growing divide between those who support the monarchy and those who believe it should be reformed or abolished altogether. For royalists, the portrait scheme and the revenue from royal estates are simply part of the monarchy's ongoing role in national life. They argue that the royal family provides a unifying symbol for the nation and is an important part of Britain's heritage. Additionally, supporters claim that the monarchy generates significant tourism revenue and helps to maintain the country's global status. On the other hand, Republicans and anti-monarchy campaigners point to the monarchy's growing financial entanglements and its increasing reliance on taxpayer money as evidence that it no longer serves the interests of the people. As public services continue to suffer, many see the royal family's wealth as a stark reminder of the inequality that persists in society. Calls for monarchy abolition or serious reform are gaining momentum as more and more people question the monarchy's relevance in a modern democratic society. What do you think? Now that we've explored the details of this unfolding story, it's time to hear from you. What do you think about the portrait scheme? Is it a harmless, albeit expensive gesture to commemorate King Charles's reign? Or is it a clear example of royal excess and wastefulness? Should the royal family be focusing on more pressing matters, or is this just part of their tradition? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think the UK monarchy needs to be reformed or even abolished? We'd love to hear your opinions, and we'll be sure to respond to as many as we can. If you found this video interesting and want to stay up to date on all the latest royal news and controversies, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new update. Your support means a lot to us, and we appreciate each and every one of you who engages with our content. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.